I live alone in a small apartment on the ninth floor. The building is old, the hallways are narrow, and the lighting is dim. Sometimes the lights flicker, like in a bad horror movie, but I'm used to it. One night, when I'd already gone to bed, someone knocked on the door. 3 quiet, careful knocks. I wasn't expecting guests, and the time was strange, almost 3 in the morning. My heart started pounding faster, but curiosity took over. As I approached the door, I peered cautiously through the peephole. The hallway was empty. I frowned and was about to step back when suddenly, someone knocked again. Slower, louder. I peered sharply through the peephole, and I saw something. It wasn't a face, not a person, something blurry, dark, as if the figure stood too close to the door, hiding its shape. I was pierced by a chilling horror. And then it opened its eyes. 2 dark, infinitely deep pupils stared straight at me. I recoiled, stumbling, and fell to the floor. And then a voice, hoarse, alien, came from behind the door. "I know you're watching." I froze. Cold sweat ran down my back. The voice outside the door was muffled, distorted, as if more than one person was speaking. I clenched my fists, trying to breathe quietly. There was silence behind the door. I tried to convince myself it was just a dream, or someone's stupid prank. But then the doorknob turned slowly. I lunged for the lock and grabbed it with both hands, pressing the door against the jamb. My heart was racing. "You've already looked, haven't you?" The voice came from right outside the door. I closed my eyes and clenched my teeth. I didn't answer. "So now I can go in." A click. I looked down. The lock had started to turn on its own. It was impossible. In a panic, I lunged backward, grabbed the closet, and pounced on it, pushing it toward the door. The floorboards creaked, and I didn't think I was going to make it. The lock turned all the way with a loud click. I pushed the closet with force, pinning the door shut, and at the last second I heard the handle all the way down. Something hit the door hard on the other side. The closet shook. And then, a light flashed in the peephole. Not electric, not a flashlight, a living, pulsing light that slowly filled the door slit, spreading across the room. And then I heard the last thing I remembered before I fell into darkness. "You'll still see me." I woke up on the floor. The room was dark, with only a dim, almost extinguished light still flickering by the doorframe. I was shaking. I couldn't remember if it was seconds or hours. A deafening silence enveloped the apartment, but something had changed. I could feel it. Breathing heavily, I slowly got to my feet, resting against the wall. The closet still blocked the door, but now seemed useless, as if the threat was already inside. I looked around. Everything looked the same, but something was wrong. I froze. The mirror. There was a large mirror in the corner of the room, and in its depths I saw movement. I turned around quickly. There was no one behind me. But in the reflection, a figure. Dark, blurry, with inky eyes. It stood where I had just been. I felt my blood freeze in my veins. My reflected hand began to rise, but I didn't move. The mirror itself slowly extended its fingers and pointed directly at me. And then a whisper sounded in my head. "You're looking. That means I'm already here." I froze. My reflection wasn't just moving on its own, it was breathing, blinking, sliding my fingers across the surface of the glass. It was like I wasn't looking in a mirror, but through a window into another world. The whisper rustled in my head again. "You've looked. Now look all the way through." And then it smiled. Unnaturally, wide, as if its face had stretched. There was darkness in its eyes, bottomless and alive. I recoiled, but the reflection stayed where it was. "No," I whispered. But it took a step forward. Not into the mirror, forward, toward me. I grabbed something heavy from the table, a metal lamp, and slammed it hard against the glass. There was a thud. The reflection didn't shatter. It still stood there, still smiling. And then, its lips began to move. But there was no sound. And it wasn't until a second later that I realized someone was repeating those words right behind me. I froze. The whisper behind me. It was soft, almost caressing. I could feel the breath on the back of my neck. Cold, alien. The mirror itself kept whispering something soundless, but now the words were coming from right in the room. Someone was standing behind me. Slowly, as if through visceral fear, I turned my head and saw myself. But it wasn't me. The skin of the reflection seemed wrong, like it was too smooth, like a wax figure. The eyes were too black, no pupils. And it was smiling. You let me in. I didn't open the door. But I looked. I looked through the peephole. I looked in the mirror. I let him in. I'm you now. My body was paralyzed. My head buzzed as if it had been hit hard. The last thing I saw was it stepping towards me. And then I woke up, standing in front of the mirror. I looked as normal. Everything around me was in its place, quiet. But something was wrong. I slowly raised my hand, and the mirror did the same. The reflection perfectly mirrored the movements. I tilted my head. It did too. I took a step back. It took a step forward. I froze. The mirror was empty. Thank you for letting me in. I heard a voice from inside the glass. But now, it was mine. I looked into the empty mirror. But it no longer reflected me. I raised my hands, ran my fingers over my face. I was still here, in this world, in my apartment. But something had changed. I went to the window and looked out. The city was living its normal life. The cars, the passers-by, the streetlights, everything was the same, but somehow alien. Like I was looking at a picture, like the world wasn't real. Pain pounded in my temples. I took a deep breath, trying to fight the dizziness, and turned to the mirror. It reflected the room again. But not me. Instead of my reflection, someone else was standing there. I recognized the figure immediately. She was smiling. How does it feel? He whispered. How does it feel to be on the other side? I gasped. It was me. But I couldn't be there. No, I breathed out. It can't be. Accept it. You're here now, and I'm over there. I took a step back. The reflection took a step forward. Don't worry, I can handle your life. No one will know the difference. In the mirror, I smiled. And then, turned around and walked away. I rushed to the glass, slammed my hands against it, but it remained hard, cold. I remained trapped inside. I screamed, but no one heard. Outside, my life went on without me, and I remained forever in the reflection.